African Americans in this building. So it makes me think more about that identity than I may want to. I just want to be excellent. I just want to explore what I'm doing. But then it sort of forces me, something I don't even want, to sort of push me to think about this identity in a higher, sort of more to the forefront than I may want it to be necessarily.
Sort of carrying this mission.
Yeah, this mission.
I think every workplace has its own culture, and how people will meet, whether they come on time, whether they're late, how they interact, how they talk with each other, how they treat each other. And people come from different cultures. So if the, if the culture of the workplace is something that you have to adapt to rather than you fit right into, it's quite different for you.
That's right.
And you might be quite able to do that, and might not be a real problem to do that, but it might.
It might.
And I think that may be the stressor is, can you really adapt to this way of this company's being, or can the company adapt to your way of being?
Courtney, and did you have your hand up? Okay, so Courtney.
It also seems like stress, particularly in high-stress work environments, that stress gets compounded. And until you see a slide that says you may be a token, you may not really step back and think about that as contributing to your stress. It doesn't mean that it's not contributing to your stress, but it may not be conscious in that particular way. And you're not only stressed about that thing, you're stressed about getting the project finished, and you're stressed about all these other things that get compounded. So it may be difficult for people to delineate what is causing me stress. So unless someone in your office is giving you some explicit stress related to race, and it's very explicit and blatant, in other circumstances it gets washed over and gets compounded with all the other stressful things that you have to deal with.
That's a good point. Very cool.
What about other family members who like look at you, if you look at you as a token person?
That's right.
And they happen to be poorer and on welfare, they look at you like, and they look at you like you stole
That's right.
Gainfully employed.
That's right.
I mean, granted, I don't make a whole lot, but I look at myself as gainfully employed compared to the neighborhood I grew up in as a child.
Right.
And I'm like, look, I saw people taking crack and destroying themselves. And as a 10, 11, 12-year-old boy, I decided, you know what, this isn't the life I wanted. So I said, the only way I can get out of here on my own, study hard in school, and make something of myself.
Syracuse University.
Yeah. Study hard. Thank God it was Syracuse. Study hard, get out of middle school, go to high school, and then let it go from there.
So now the next point I mentioned earlier about our roadmap today is how do they affect personal and family life? And we've been sort of weaving that in already. So I don't think we need to go and spend so much time on describing the process, but I want to show you some results, a few graphs. These results are coming from the survey of ethnic minority workers that I mentioned earlier. The one that was done in Chicago with Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, and in New York City with African Americans, Dominicans, and Puerto Ricans again. All right, so in that particular survey, there are different questions about diversity in other people of your same group. Remember this? So now that we're talking about Mexicans, the question is, are there other Mexicans? Are there other Dominicans? So depending on your nationality, that's the question. And I did an analysis with my colleagues to look at the relationship between the answers that people were giving, the level of diversity, and psychosomatic symptoms. Psychosomatic symptoms are those things when you start to feel that pain in your chest, and the sweating, and the back pain, and you think it's all physical, and you take a pill like a Tylenol. It doesn't work, because it's here. It's the distress coming out in other ways. And for people of color in particular, this is the way in which our mental health gets manifested when it's distressed. Sometimes we don't accept this other way of thinking that we have distress. So instead, it's all this physical symptomatology coming out. So for this particular question of diversity and psychosomatic symptoms, there were 13 symptoms. So what you have on the left, and I'm going to use my little red pen here, is higher levels would be more symptoms. And then on the bottom is the answers were 6 answers. None of the people I work with are of my ethnic group. Few, some, a lot, most, or all. What we see here is a curvilinear relationship. The famous U-shaped relationships. People that seem to have the lowest level of problems, psychosomatic problems, are in this middle ground. They don't work with everybody of my same group. Or I'm not a token either. In the middle. So more along the lines of that critical mass we were talking about earlier. What does that mean? Because I was surely hoping that if I had everybody like me, I would have a good time, but why not? And this has to do with the fact of what I said earlier about sometimes these jobs are not the kind of jobs that we think have the best working conditions. They may be those jobs that have other kinds of stressors related to the fact that they're low wage, low status, occupational segregation issues. So it's hard to disentangle that, but still makes the interesting point that it is when people are in that middle ground, where there is a mix, let's say, we're all mixed up, it seems to be a nice thing. So we do have people like you. So our middle management person, if you had more people to feel that there are somewhat, some or a lot like you probably would have fewer of those issues, and no need for that counseling stuff that we were talking about. Another relationship from this data was with life satisfaction. Life satisfaction, the higher the level here on the left, more positive. More satisfaction is felt. Here on the bottom, none of the people that I work with are like me, and on the other extreme, everybody is. And who has higher levels of satisfaction in their lives? People who have that mix. Not everybody is Boricua where I work, but it's a little mix of people. Let's see the other one. This is job satisfaction. Again, higher level of satisfaction on the left. For job satisfaction, who has the highest? This middle level of people. So these people in the tokenism situation, and these people on that ethnic concentration situation are having lower levels in their reports. And this work was published in the Journal of Community Psychology. All right, another finding from that set of analysis is what happens when you have experiences of discrimination, but in addition you are in the place that it's either high or low in these levels of diversity. So first of all, in the analysis of that data set, we found that discrimination is related to distress, to those things that I mentioned, satisfaction, psychosomatic symptoms. Discrimination is negatively related, meaning that it seems to be related to distress. To less satisfaction, more distress, more symptoms. And this is not new or is unique to this data set. Other researchers have found this relationship between perceptions of discrimination and even physical health problems like hypertension and things like that. What I wanted to highlight for you is that in some of the analysis I did, I found that for those that are in high levels of discrimination, meaning you can report discrimination, all of us may report some levels of discrimination, but let's say that our group sitting on that side of the room, the ones that have been talking a lot tonight, we are feeling more discrimination. And that group